And we'll go watch the phone in of Mr. Joseph E. Zveglich of the ADB Bank.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph Zveglich, for joining our program. You are now taking part in the Asian Development Bank Conference in Hanoi. And I was wondering whether you can tell me the highlight of this year's ADB's conference, and in terms of the economic achievement of this region, and where are we going, from here?
Well, in fact, this is the ADB's annual meeting that we're having here, the meeting of our fourth governor. And so the broader agenda is that we're working together to achieve ADB's core mandate of poverty reduction. And the theme of this year's governor's seminar is on our soon-to-be published report on Asia 2050. And this report is focusing on what Asia must do over the coming 40 years to sustain its growth momentum, to continue to improve the livelihoods of the 90 million Asians who exist on less than $1.25 a day, and working towards inclusive growth and prepare for other long-term development challenges.
Do you think that the poor or the underprivileged are doing better off, this year compared to the previous years, and is the income gap, being narrowed?
Well, it's hard to say from year to year, but robust economic growth is needed in order to reduce poverty in the region. And so the rapid bounce back that the region experienced from the recent global economic downturn should support increases in living standards. But the authorities do need to be aware that it's just not the rate of growth that matters, but growth itself needs to be inclusive to provide opportunities to a wide range of people, so that all people benefit from the growth of the region.
At the moment, inflation seems to be rising quite rapidly, and interest rates, if you look throughout the region, are also rising in tandem. Do you think that the Asian region, can ride over this round of inflationary pressure, and whether that will, or how that will affect the economic growth, in this region, and also how's that going to affect the social stability here?
Well, addressing inflation is very important to the region. As Asia has been much faster in terms of its recovery crisis, we're starting to see the buildup of inflationary pressures. So the fact that authorities have taken early action to try to address inflation, to try to contain it before it gets out of hand, is a positive step in our view. And it is the poor that tend to be hurt most by rising inflation, particularly when that inflation is coming from rising food prices. Asia's consumption baskets are very heavily weighted on food, much more so than a developed country. And in fact, we've done some simulations that have shown that the increase in food prices leads to higher levels of poverty. So dealing with these issues is very important for the region.
Yeah, and one of the subjects, raised during the conference is how the Asian countries, may pool their resources or international reserves, in order to finance the major infrastructure development in this region, instead of subscribing to the treasuries, from the developed markets. And how's that? Is there any progress in that area?
Well, certainly, if there is greater cooperation in the region on these issues, if there was greater recycling of the investment of the savings into investment within the region, that could help to meet some of the financing gap in infrastructure and other investment. This is something that's going to take greater development of the finance sector within the region, and this is something that ADB is very much helping promote.
The ADB ADB report suggests that the Asian region is growing rapidly at 7 to 8% this year. Do you think that this growth rate can be sustained, in case that the US, Europe, Japan are to face, further downturn in their economic performance?
Well, in the report, we did note that our projections for Asian growth are 7.8% this year, 7.10% next year. But as one of the key risks is really the strength of the recovery in the major industrial countries. While domestic demand within the region has been building up, this is still more of a medium-term adjustment, which is ongoing. So it's very important that we see a continued recovery in the Japan, US, and Eurozone. So developing Asia is able to sustain more of its growth by relying on its domestic demand. These markets are still very much an important part of the growth story here.
Thank you very much for joining our program. Hope you have a good time in Hanoi.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.